Hi everybody, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Today it's middle of January. We're doing some winter work for our market garden that we're going up. And I have a lot of things that I'm trying to get in. So I need row covers so for some protection. I need a propagation table so I can start all my trays outside because I don't have a greenhouse built yet. So I have to have some way to have a heated propagation table. I need a compost bin. My compost is kind of piled up, and since I'm focusing, I don't mind to have a pile, but since I'm focusing on kind of doing urban agriculture, I'd like to have something nicer that would keep it in the area. And I also would like to have a place where I could do worms. So how do I get all this stuff? How do I get my greenhouse up? How do you get started in a market garden and combine things? So one main thing I learned from Joel Salatin was that use something that you have multiple ways. And so today I'm going to go through all that. What I'm going to do, what I chose to do, see what you think of it, see how it works. That's coming up after this.
I'm Jared McGinnis. Thanks for joining me and my family on this adventure, where over the next 2 years, we're going to show you how to change an average subdivision home into a local, sustainable food source for you and your family. From market gardening to orchards, greenhouses, and water catchment systems, it's all right here on Strong Roots Farm.
So one of the major things that I think a lot of farmers get wrong, and it may be just my financial background, it may be Dave Ramsey, and I like his stuff, is that they go into debt. So if you're a home gardener or a homesteader, kind of understand your debt. Don't spend $5,000 on something that's not going to repay you in food when you could just buy it from another farmer. Think a little bit about that. So there's investments and returns, and think about what you're doing. So we always look at how we can save costs. So the first thing I needed on my list was row covers. So I decided to go to Johnny's and order a Johnny's pipe bender, which is this thing right here. Okay. And I can take conduit that I get from my local hardware store and I can bend it into my row covers. So it'll bend, it goes around there nice. The negative to this piece of equipment is that you have to secure it down very tightly. So unless you have a wood picnic table and you want to drill holes in it, it's very hard to do that without building a jig. The other alternative is to buy a pipe bender, which I also have one of those for electrical conduit. You can get that at your hardware store. Figure out the angles, figure out the math, and build it like a greenhouse structure would be, supposedly. So you can do it that way. I've done it that way as well. I like the even arc. It does hold weight better. So if your arc is even all the way around, the proportion of the weight on your plastic, it doesn't move as much. It doesn't have corners to rub, and it does support weight better than going up and having an angle and then having another angle at the top. Like if you look back in my chicken tractor video, that's how I bent those pipes, was with the electrical conduit bender that electricians use. It creates angles. It's good for the chicken tractor, not so much for these row covers. So that's the first thing I purchased. That was about $60, and we invested into that. So I wanted to make a propagation table. That was the other thing I needed to make on my list. I need a place, once I seed my trays and have them inside for about a week, that I can put them outside and use a greenhouse structure. That's typically where in the past on the farm, I would set all my trays and my propagation table inside my greenhouse. I don't have a heated greenhouse. I don't even have my hoop house up yet. I have all the materials for that. Just the amount of work that I have to do before February 15th, March 1st, when I want to start seeding trays, is a lot. I've been working on my building. I still have the house and the honey-do list there. If you're watching my prior videos, I recommend you go back and look at those. But all we've really got is our rows built. And it's the first year for this market garden. So I still have a lot to do. So how do I accomplish all these things? So I got my propagation table I want to build. I do want to build a nice place to throw compost that's close to my rows, where I'm not walking material away. Lean farming, spaghetti diagrams, those kind of things. I don't want to walk a far distance to pile it up. Plus I live in a subdivision. So I do want to have kind of a nicer, neater, cleaner look. So how do I build a compost bin? I'd also like to have a place where I could have a worm bin, okay? So where I could go in and make worm castings. So how am I gonna do this all together? So here's my theory. I'll show you what I'm doing today, and then by the end you can see kind of what you think about it. But if I build a compost bin that I can also put worms in, so it's a composting / worm bin, the worms will help break it down. I will get some castings, not as much if I left it longer with just worms. And I build that in a box. On top of this box, I lay cardboard on top of my compost. That now becomes my propagation table. And I take the hoops that I'm gonna build for my rows, and I make the table the size so that those hoops, those same hoops I can use in multiple ways, attach to the top of this table, laying the greenhouse plastic over it. So the greenhouse plastic will, in a sense, cover the whole propagation table and will also cover the worm bin, adding heat to the worms, but allowing air to go in and out. It'll keep moisture in there, all those things. Any water runoff from my trays will go down into my worm bin, allowing the moisture, which you have to water as well and keep the moisture right. And the heat that's coming in through the day, through the sun, into the worm bin will control the heat throughout the night when it's cold. That ground, the air, plus the heat that the compost is performing on its own, producing, it'll help my propagation table be like a warm table. And at the end of the day, I can take it back apart and I can break it down. And then I have all the worm casting and the compost underneath of it that I use as a table to put later in the spring or maybe fall even. And I wanted it mobile. So I want to be able to take this apart. I want to be able to move it where I want to move it to as I go. You can put it on top of where you want to row in the future. So that's kind of my thought process. And here's what we're going for. I wanted to do this as cheap as possible. So I had these old fence rails. They're old cedar rails. I've got probably 30 of them that I brought with me from the farm. I didn't know what I was going to use them for. So I'm going to cut those. I also had some 2x6s that were treated that were left over from the building, like 6 of them. So I could have returned them, but I already had paid for them. I already got them at a cheaper cost because they came with the building package. So I had those. So I'm building a box. You can see it's got slats in it here for air to come in and out. And then I'm going to cover that with my Sun Gold fabric so the worms can't crawl out. Let's look at that. You can see here that I have stapled the Sunbelt fabric down. This will end up being the bottom. So this box will sit on the ground and this fabric will kind of go make an edge so worms can't get in or out. And it also has a little bit of a lip here on this edge where I can fold it in between each other. So basically I'm gonna build 4 sides and I'll screw them together. And then the fabric will be all on the inside. And I'm gonna layer cardboard in the bottom of this with a couple holes. So any worms in the ground that wanna come up in can, but it's harder for them to find their way out. Now, over time, obviously, the cardboard will break down over the year and all the worms will leave. But worms are cheap and I'm gonna put this right where my rows will be for next year or the following season. And I will be able to those worms will go down on the ground. So I'm okay with that. So as we go along through the build, my son Ruger's here helping me today. Say hi, Ruger. And we will show you how we get all this put together and see what you think of it at the end.
I'll just do it wherever I think.
All right, there you have it. We've got it put together now. So I'll just give you kind of a little tutorial here. So we've put our Sunbelt on our sides, on the inside, and you can see on the floor here, it's got 3 or 4 inches of kind of overlay, and then I'll layer the bottom with cardboard, 1 or 2 layers of cardboard. On the sides here, I've attached these PVC pieces. I've done this before on a chicken tractor that I had and on a hydroponics or aquaponics system that I built one time. So this works, but I need some clamps. So I'll get some pipe clamps. I don't have those today, but it doesn't matter. I gotta get this outside and get it full of compost. Basically what I do is I cut the pipe, I drill a hole all the way through the bottom here of the pipe and put a screw all the way in. So I don't know if this will even work, but if you look down in it, the screw is all the way through the pipe there. And that's what keeps the conduit from sliding all the way through. It rests basically on that screw. And then the top here, I'll have a clamp to hold this pipe from going. And then you'll just put your row covers right down in there, cover everything with plastic. So as I kind of get it further away, you can kind of see what I've done. It is pretty tall. It's 46 inches tall. Basically, I had the material and those pieces were in 8 feet. So I wanted to get it as tall as I could. It's a good height for me. I'm 6'4", so it's a good height for me working hand-wise and ergonomic-wise. It could probably be another 6 inches shorter. 40 inches would probably be better. But I wanted to use as much of the board as I could. So the bigger the box, the better. Once again, the arches will go over. The plastic will go all the way over to the ground, and then I'll use sandbags to hold them. So I'm not going to have to staple the plastic and take it on and take it off. I can just move the sandbags off, fold it over, do the work I gotta do, fold it back over and put the sandbags back, and we'll be done. So I'll put all my compost in here. I'm gonna put a lot of food in here for the worms, some paper, scraps, and everything going. And then when I fill it completely to the top, hopefully before here in the next month, I will top it off with cardboard and that's what my trays will actually sit on the cardboard. Once the trays root to where the roots are coming out of the bottom of the trays, then I will have to put them up on 2x4s just so they can air prune and they don't grow into the cardboard actually. But that's my box, and I'll continue to kind of keep you up to date on how this goes as we get it full and as it comes in, as we start propagating in it. We'll see how it turns out. In the past, I have got some naysayers in my videos, and there probably will be some people that disagree with what I'm doing here or say it won't work. There's a difference between learning from other people's mistakes and not testing stuff on your own. So I try to, listen to other people, listen to what they have to say, take the negative comments and good criticism and roll with that. And that's something I want to encourage you with, is learn from the others, take their criticism and think about it. But when somebody gives you a criticism or a complaint about what you're doing and they don't give you a solution, it's just crabbing. It's just crybabying. It's just whining in my mind. So take that for a grain of salt. Look past those people that are saying negative things. I have no clue if this is going to work. It makes logical sense to me, so I think it will. And it seems like a pretty good idea. If it doesn't work at all, what do I have? I have a compost bin that's easy to take apart and move around. So I've still accomplished one of my missions, and I'll build another propagation table later in the greenhouse when I get that up. But test stuff, okay? Test it out. Do your own test studies, as my son Gatlin in the background is playing on the tractor. So hope that helps you. Have a good day, and keep going, keep growing your own, keep watching us and subscribing. I appreciate everybody that's watching. Hopefully that'll help you. This stuff can all be purchased at Lowe's or Home Depot. I didn't use anything special here that I made on the farm. Make sure you're using treated lumber so that way it doesn't rot away. You can use untreated if you got a bunch laying around, but know that it will rot, and 2 or 3 years is about all you're gonna get out of it. The weather will deteriorate it. So I used all treated lumber or cedar, and that's what I did there today. I do not have plans for this. I kind of used whatever material I had, and that's the shape that I made it. I went with 32 inches wide, and it's 65 inches long. That's the size boards I had. I went with the 32 inches wide because that's the same width I'm going to use on my row cover arches. That's the only reason. So you can use PVC in these arches as well. You don't have to use the metal. Those will just naturally bend. You don't have to buy a bender if you want to build something like this on your own. But there you go. Have a good day.
As always, thanks for watching. Tell your mama and them. Subscribe and comment to continue with us on this journey. And don't forget to check out Noah Smith at noahsmithmusic.com.